Um, growing up, I never really had any religious instruction. My mom always kept it open for me. Whatever you want to do, that's fine with her. And I never really found anything substantially deep like I was really looking for. Unity was close because they had a lot of things that I resonated with and they were real positive. But that still wasn't it. And then that leads me up to I did well, I moved around the states, lived in New York City for a year, in Kansas City for 3 years. I'm from Olympia area in Washington State originally. And then when I moved to Kansas City, I was really burnt out on all of the dead end jobs that I was doing. So I wanted to look up for something more rewarding. And that was what guided me to look into chiropractic. And the first chiropractor that I worked for, her name was Barbara Noel. She was in Mission, Kansas, which is a suburb of Kansas City area. I went with her, and then one day she came up and said, Annie, I needed to get some more information on where I should go with my office. And she thought about moving to California and other things. So she asked me if I wanted to go. I said, sure, you bet. It was a really, really intuitive lady. So we went, we had an appointment, we went. My original question was, who will I be married to? Which she did answer me correctly, but that wound up being domestic violence in the end. So I left him. But in the meantime, she also told me significantly, this is very, very important, that when I am in chiropractic college, there'll be around a certain quarter that I will feel energy from the ethers, from the atmosphere. And when I do, that's my angels telling me not to ride my motorcycle. I said, no problem. I won't buy a motorcycle. That's scary. But sure enough, I did. Cheap on gas, insurance, and everything. So I did. And around that time of the accident, I was staying with my boyfriend at the time. Boyfriend. It wasn't really, there wasn't too much between us. But anyway, I told him I needed to borrow his car. And he asked me why. And I said that I know that there's going to be a problem. And then so I barely remember, I asked him once. And the very following day, I asked him, and he was really irritated. He said, no, you're not going to. I said, I really need to do this. So he wound up leaving the keys on the table. And that was when the accident happened. It was right around Chiropractic College. We're going down Springfield Road, and I see this car weaving in and out of my lane, which isn't uncommon in Spartanburg, South Carolina, for people to weave in and out of the lane. So I thought, oh, she'll get it corrected. Then pretty soon she gets close enough for me to see she slumped over her steering wheel. I thought, oh my God, there's something wrong with her. And then all of a sudden there was a crash. It was very, very loud, which I don't remember, but she crashed into my car and pinned me inside between the door and the transmission. And they had to cut the car to get me out. Meanwhile, all this activity was going on. I rise above the accident. I see this gorgeous, gorgeous man weaving above me. He said, oh man, this guy's really cool. But he said, don't worry, this is not a date, your normal date. So, okay, good. And then he wrapped his arms around me, and it was Archangel Michael. He was protecting me. His presence was phenomenal. The feelings that I felt wasn't just on the inside, it was internally, not just on the outside, excuse me, it was internally resonating, beautiful, beautiful, profound light and love. And I said, oh, wow, is this what heaven is like? He said, yes. And then I don't recall movement, but I do know we went from one area to another. And he said, I'm going to deliver you to somebody that you will not have a problem with, because I didn't want to leave. But he said, you won't have a problem with this. You'll enjoy this much more. And that's when I was involved with my twin flame. And the resonance with that was just phenomenal. I remember seeing his gorgeous smile. Unconditional, abundant love was just streaming into me, accepting me for all the faults that I had and all the problems that I had. That wasn't a problem. I was just basking in this love, and he told me that I needed to go to a school. I said, what? I don't believe you. But he said, it's really important because these are codes they're information or tools that you can bring back to Earth. I said, well, okay. So I wound up being set on this front porch. Beautiful, beautiful to school. Beautiful, tall building. You could see the particles alive within the walls and the colors. Everything was alive. It wasn't just like emptiness that we have here on Earth. And it was just gorgeous. And I stepped on there, and instantly I was filled up with light from the floor. And the door was really, really tall, but effortlessly I could push it open. And I walked in. The foyer was beautiful. It was ingrained with pillars of gorgeous lapis Lucy. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The crystal.
Lazuli. Lapis
Yeah,
lazuli.
yeah. I got some crystals.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah. And so anyway, that was there, and then plus ingrained gold surrounding the crystal columns. They were like Egyptian columns. And I walk in, and this beautiful lady asked me, what class do I want to go to? I said, I have no clue. I'm just here, she didn't know I was just visiting. So she sent me to one class, and that wasn't right, and came back. In the meantime, a lady named Mary talked with her, and she directed her to tell me which class would be best. So then she said, well, let's try this one. And it was on healing. I said, oh, great, that's what I'm into. So I walked in, and I can't remember the archangel's name. I think it was Raziel. He was talking about geometric shapes and quantum physics. And this was a longer version than what I recalled when I came back to Earth. But the the class was not just written or cognitive words. You could see his description of how quantum physics is a fluid form of thinking relating to the particles, which is everywhere. There are particles everywhere. In Nirvana here on Earth, everything's filled up with particles, and particles are the within our cells that holds our cells together by magnetic frequency. So I was just viewing these beautiful, loving particles flowing everywhere, and it's a fluid form. He was talking about how we can implement the fluid form of thinking into our life. And then he also talked about geometric shapes and how these shapes hold energy patterns when we connect through the particle awareness that we are accessing. And I thought, well, that's really neat, but why would we place emphasis in on something external? Just go within. Right away when I said that, Mary came back in, and she asked me what I thought about the class. I was like, oh, this is great stuff. I really like it, but just get right to source. And she said, I thought you'd think that. So then I went out, and she asked me if I wanted to go back to Earth. I said, you kidding? No, I want to stay here. This is pretty cool. But she showed me my daughter and then my son, and then I have some children responsibilities that I had agreed to before. She didn't say get into details, but she just showed me my kids. I said, okay, I'll go back. So what happened next was I went into a room where there was a chair that was on a pedestal. And I walked up and I sat in the chair because my physical body was indeed dying. And I needed to sit in this chair to get full of source, instant source, so I would get healed on Earth. Meanwhile, back on Earth, that was indeed happening. My body was dying. And when I filled up with light and source, instantly it was healed. And the doctors were amazed at how quick my body was healed. In fact, there was a couple of Chinese doctors that were observing, and they observed me and so forth. But the basics is filling up with light, which is our source. So, and that's what happened when I sat in the chair. So anyway, I'm aware Mary's back in the room, and we walked down to one of her private rooms where we were seeing monitors, and inside the monitor she showed me what will happen when these codes get implemented in Earth, because we have free will. We can go in any direction in any layer that we want to experience. We have that. Everybody knows that we are experiencing many things all at once. We just hone in on what experience we desire. So anyway, anyway, we were looking at this field, and there were two men who kept continuously, constantly coming back, trying to balance their karma, but they couldn't. They kept memorizing the problem so that it was alive to them, and they would blame the other person, being the person that initiated the problem. For example, one would be killing one lifetime, the other person would kill the other one the lifetime, or families. I mean, was generating a whole ton of a dense energy. So what one of the two men was already in the field, and he had healed by attracting light only, rejecting all of the problems that was the karmic problem that they kept reincarnating to fix. And the other one person came in, and they're two men. The other guy comes in, he looks at him, and he did the same thing. Both of them were healed. And this is so chilling because instantly the vibration resonated from within both men, instantly spread out, and they're both healed all at once, including the people who were not necessarily directly but indirectly involved with the karma. Instantly, everything was healed. And I stepped back and said, wow, I can see how that happens, but nobody's going to believe me. I'm a small town chiropractor. I have nothing happened to my life to initiate that. I said, oh, we've got the right person. And she further explained that. And anyway, back to the experience. She also told me, too, that when I return to Earth, neurophysiology will be a very important class for me to take. And so I was really excited. And histology, which is one of my favorite subjects before chiropractic college, because learning and visualizing what the cells are all about in histology class was really, really exciting. So anyway, I keep that in the back of my mind. And she then let me, I wandered around the school, and I walked past this one room. It was really weird energy. It was almost like that didn't belong. It was strange energy. And I asked her about it, and she said, well, okay, let's go check it out. So, of course, she didn't say it like that, but, we checked it out. And all the room was filled with like the old-fashioned library pull tabs that you pull out the tab, and there's card catalog. And she showed me, got permission from the person who was residing already in Nirvana, got the permission for her to pull it out and check it out. So we pulled that out, and there's a whole bunch of holographic images in there. And nothing really happened. It was just images of past life that she had. And those were the Akashic records that everybody has held within their energy to work through and ascend through. So anyway, there was another class that I went to where there were two men behind this real long table, and standing on the ends were a number of books. I don't know, maybe 15, 20. They're thick books, and they're standing on end. And I was directed telepathically to, he took out a book and opened it up, and I was directed to lean over the book. And when I leaned over the book, millions of particles downloaded within my being, which is a way that you take your classes in that university. You just download the information. So I downloaded a whole bunch of particles, which then correlates with the first class about the quantum physics and how these particles are alive and active to be able to move into any area that we want. So that was kind of it. Again, getting back to the class with Mary, I saw a picture on the wall, beautiful picture, beautiful smiling man. Gosh, he was gorgeous. And I asked her about it, and she said this entity was Paul the Pulsal back in 2,000 years ago. His name now is Nick Bunick, which he did step out with his information in the book that they wrote on. He was the subject matter of the Messengers, which I don't think you can get now, but he's passed about a year and a half ago. He died in his sleep, if I remember right. But I met him a couple of times, and I told him my experience, and we resonated quite a bit. And when we were asleep, when he was still alive, we would contact each other. And I had a dream where I was below the cross, and that did not happen. Emmanuel was his ritual name, because we all know him as Jesus. He didn't die on the cross. And that was one of the problems with religions on how they control people in that scenario. But that's getting quite a bit off the subject. But I reminded him about a class or about a dream I had. And I dreamt I was below the cross, and I said to Emmanuel, what do I need to do to wake you up? And when he died, he telepathically connected with me, and he reminded me of that dream. And that dream is all about what do we all need to do to wake up to our love, which was the essence message of what Emmanuel or Jesus really came to share, was waking up to love. So that with that dream, I got redirected on what is it that I need to be refocusing in on, which is exposing the messages of what it's like to be in love and to be love in exchange. Getting back to being held by Emmanuel, he told me that he will be with me when I come through. And I said, okay, I had no clue what that meant. But telepathically and on the etheric level, I am with him. He's my twin flame, and we're exposing the balance of masculine, feminine love, what that is all about. And it's not anybody over compensating for the other person because of the past records that we have from our experiences, but exposing light into our holographic images is really easy when we feel a problem. It might not be as easy as possible, but when we feel a problem, we can express light into it and repel it out. That's the nature of the feminine nature of thinking. Getting to the histology, which I was really originally told about. When we look at how a neuron synapses, there's a body and neuron body, dendrites give information to the body, and then the axon delivers the message. Inside the axon is negative on the inside, positive on the outside. When there's enough stimulus, for a synapse, that flips all the way down to the end plate, and then there's a neurotransmitter that goes across to the target. So if we were to look at flipping magnets, positive and negative, flipping the ions, positive and negative, that's the same as magnetic frequency. So if we get magnets and put them together, you can feel there is a resistance. You can also feel there's an attraction. And that's how the initial phase of our thinking, which has been overlooked, how we can correlate all of our thoughts in line with being light or love. And love and light are similar frequencies. So in my past with my domestic violence, I couldn't really resonate with love because I didn't have a reference, but I could with light that's generic. So I attracted light, which is the same as love. And I attract light by keeping in alignment with the magnetic frequency, the magnetic thought, which goes back to when I bent over the book, the particles are already in line with me, and that's really easy for me to resonate with. However, it's really tough for other people who haven't had that class, so it's kind of difficult to explain. But starting off, just play with magnets and trust the light. When you fill up with light, nothing else is there. You fill up with light and then project that light into what problem that you need to have healed. Hold the light. It's on a different frequency than our cognitive, and you can go about doing cognitive stuff at the same time. You still feel the light that's resonating within you because you've attracted it. You've asked for it. So that's kind of basically it. Which is quite a bit.
I need to take notes for this class because this is fascinating. Would you say the particles would be like a stream of consciousness?
Yes, yeah, that we have contact with. Yes, it's a stream or a string of our awareness that we can adapt to, we can get attracted to, which resonates within us. Every single cell, the organelles within the cell, the little particles within the cell, they're all held together by particles. quarks as well, but particles attract. And when we start to attract, they resonate with that frequency, or that as we resonate within the vibrations, that also attunes us on the, not the cognitive level, but on the frequency of our attracting of our magnetic frequency. So they're waiting for us, ourselves, everything is waiting for us to deliver where we want to go. And it's up to us. We need to eliminate all the things that tell us that we're not worthy or that we can't do it, for starts, because we can, and we have been fooled by many things in the past, but this is not now. We're moving forward.
Yeah. I see a lot with people when there's something going wrong or they're sick. We tend to focus on why are we sick, on the problem. And from what I'm hearing, it's focus on what you'd like to have, focus on the solution, and then the problem will just dissolve.
Yes, exactly. Because when we focus, whatever we focus in on, that gives it energy. That energy will generate what we focus in on. Now, it's difficult for physical stuff. Right now, I have physical problems, but I'm generating myself on correcting it because I am a retired chiropractor. I've got lots of tools in the profession to work with, but there's a couple of things that I need to be applying in my life that I haven't been able to do yet. And with that said, I'm taking vitamins and stuff. And also I adjust myself. I have an activator that I motion palpate my low back and then I adjust certain areas. But there's limitations that we have resonated with because we're in the limited three-dimensional life. So there is challenges.
When you left there, how long did it take for you to kind of wake up after your accident?
Oh gosh. Well, I was in a 10-day coma. When I came back, things are quite vague, and it took me a while to really remember that I did have an accident to start with. It was about a couple of, I'd say probably about 3 or 4 months or more, 5 months. But when I started to remember things, I was in the ER, and one of the physicians comes up to me and he leans over and he yells at me. He says, "Ann Lee, it's time to wake up. It's time to come back." He said, I remember saying, "I don't want to." And I could see the relief. He said, "I know you don't, but you need to come back." And then sometime later on, I kept looking at him. I said, "Gosh, I remember him from someplace." And then I remembered he was one of the instructors in Nirvana, and I can't recall exact correlation, but I told him that, and I said exactly how I remembered him. And there was a couple of people in the background, and he said, no, that's not me, that's not me. Then when nobody was there, and this happened in 81, so I know he's gone, but gone on to other things, but he came back, he said, "Yes, you are right. If I were to say that, I would get fired, but I knew, I wanted to tell you, you are right. I did meet you there. I wanted to make sure you came back." And so that was cool. And then Mary also came back etherically and told me about some of the processes and trying to help me remember how things were happening, because she told me when I was in Nirvana, when I come to Earth, I will forget. I said, "Oh crap, I can't do that." But I did. Everybody does, because of the density. So she was reminding me of a few things in the etheric realm. And then when my twin flame comes through about 6 years ago, we've been connecting on the etheric realm, and that's been really cool. And I've been waking up quite a bit more with that. And some of the things that I've come through with is really kind of cool. A couple of years, 2 or 3 years ago or so, I kept being attracted to birds. I'm a nature lover. I'm about a block from the Columbia River on the Washington side. And I kept getting attracted to some beautiful trees along the river. And one time I went there and I was leaning against one of the trees. There was about 4 or 5 trees that were merging from the base. together. I leaned in and I hear, well, excuse me, before that I said, I'm really glad you guys aren't on 14 because they're tearing down some of the trees. They're widening the highway. And then I hear from the tree, you have a way with nature. I said, yeah. And then from there, he explained that we are here, trees are here to hold the light for people. We give people peace. And that's what we generate is when you feel you're going into the forest and need to go into the forest, we generate and magnify the peace that you're desire. And I said, oh, I wish I could talk to some of the other trees that are below there. He said, don't worry, our roots connect. Everybody here, not only local, like within my visual, but there's an island that's on the river. Everybody connected. And I said, oh, that is so cool. So that was one of my experiences. And so I connected with that. And I also have connected with people who have left their physical bodies. The first experience was when my son was in 8th grade, and I volunteered to be her chaperone. We went to Fort Stevens. It was from the United States that was protecting the United States. So before we walked in, people were saying, now when we leave, we're going to lock this up. It's at such and such a time. And be sure you come out because there's some ghosts that are still here. And people were kind of scared. And I was walking through no problem, I can connect. And then we were standing in this room where they had guns that when they backfired or when they shot the cannon, when it shot the cannonball, it would backfire down into this turret. And it would be like a disappearing guns along the coast. And the Japanese were real concerned about that. But anyway, we were talking about this and the guide said, okay, we're going to turn out the lights. And there's no light that would come in at all. I feel somebody tapping on my right shoulder. He said, you can hear me, can't you? I said, yeah. He goes, I want you to tell everybody we are so pleased that people are here interested in what we did back then, because we would lay our lives down for the children to be here. And it's so exciting to see how many people are here. There was like 3 busloads of kids, and we were excited. They want me to tell everybody that this is what's going on. And I said, okay. And then I see about dozen or so men on the wall laughing at us. They weren't laughing at us, excuse me, they were laughing with us because these kids were screaming, oh no, there's ghosts. And they were laughing because they were there to lay their lives down for people, for us to be there. And it was so funny. And right when I was starting to talk, the guy moved everybody through. I said, don't worry, I'll tell everybody on the bus. So I did. And then I wanted to spread that word out too, that because they were so excited that people were interested, and they're still there. And I told them, well, we don't have any problem with Japan anymore. In fact, they're a pretty cool country. And instead of balls of cannonballs, why don't you send out cannonballs of light out into the world? That is being more effective now because that's where we're moving to. And they thought that was a good idea. And then I've also had my aunt and uncle. My uncle died after my aunt did. My aunt had cancer, and I saw her frequently. She would come in and give me, pet messages. And then when my uncle died, the trees that I talked about earlier, I went down there and I sat along the tree, and my uncle comes, and Aunt comes up. My uncle first came up and said, Annie, I never told you this when I was alive, but I wanted to tell you how proud I was that you became a chiropractor. That was really cool that you did that. And then pretty soon my aunt shows up, and she's so excited. She said, tell everybody we're having the time of our life. It's really great to be living in heaven. And then she told me all the things that I have ever done within the family was because I am a strong person, and they needed to balance the duality or balance their karma as a result of what I did. So that was really cool. And I don't contact with them too much, but that was really neat memorable to see my aunt and uncle. They were just beautiful, glowing with light, really cool.
Wow. So nothing scary. How is your life?
No, absolutely not.
No negative entities. How is your life different now to how it was before the accident?
Oh, much fuller in light, and much fuller, meaning I'm not I do resonate with fear. Of course, that happens, and I do get concerns, but being with my twin flame is just phenomenal. I mean, it's just, I have filled up so more so than ever. And the tools, after I get through processing out what holds me back, all of my doubts and stuff, because that was how I was raised, through doubts, and you knew you can't do that. For an example, my mom told me from day one, you can't do chiropractic. It's hard, from day one. And then when I graduated, I had the diploma. I got the degree. I'm a chiropractor. I'm a doctor. She said, you're not a doctor yet until you have to get your license. I said, I just spent 6 years. Yeah, I'm a doctor. I have the credentials, and I'm still a doctor. I just tell everybody, no, yeah, that is my diploma, that is my credentials, but I don't practice chiropractic. So I had to go through a lot of self-doubt. And when I did, the problem that we have is we keep memorizing the fear. We keep getting people telling us, yes, this is not right. Your images are correct in that you are fear. You don't belong here. You don't deserve what you don't deserve it. You're not a good person, and so forth. So I kept increasing that fear base. It's almost like I create, and everybody creates, a suit of armor that is so strong you can't break through with it. But we can, because we have the ability to unthink this suit of armor and project out light. And I've also have been able to have visions of what people go through, and visions of, I see people out of the body, and I've seen people's energy from my visions, and I've done a couple of meditations where we process out problems. One of them was where we projected all of our problems on a stage, and everything was all there, including us if we wanted to. And then the floor of the stage folds into like a river, and it goes back into the light. And Sananda's light is in the image of the curtains. And as that goes into that, Sananda knows better. That's not right. All your fear-based stuff is not who you really are. And then it's absorbed. And you can feel the release when we fill up with light and push out our problems, and it goes into the light. It's lifting within our physical. And let's see what else.
I love that, because a lot of times people feel like they overwhelmed with problems and they don't know what to do with it. It's kind of like they think the only way I'm going to get rid of it is to have closure, but you may never get closure. So does that mean you're going to sit with this heavy energy? It's a nice tool to be able to just say, right, I'll push it out.
Yeah,
And let it be transmuted, because that's what happens, right?
exactly. And we are in charge. We have the ability, we have the strength to do this. And if you ever feel you need to encourage strength, call on Archangel Michael. He's there instantly. He'll protect you. He'll fill you up with light, and that light will generate only light, which means the negative stuff will disappear. Now, being overwhelmed can be a problem because it's so overwhelming. Where do I start? Well, just start with the smallest, the most insignificant thing first. Like if you're overwhelmed from somebody cutting you off on the road, that's insignificant because you don't know that person. Just take that image and just repel that image out, replace it with light, and then keep moving forward, because the more we generate memorizing the answer from small to large, the easier we will access the light, because we get results. And the next time somebody cuts you off, you might be a little problem, but keep generating that answer and keep memorizing that answer. And then pretty soon it's like, well, that's not my problem, because it's not. It's their problem.
And I love the fact that you said if you can't feel love, then think of light, because there are a lot of people that have suffered so much that they really struggle to open up their heart center. So it's a good way to have an image, and it's real. Yeah.
Absolutely, because it's generic and we're not attached. Whereas we are, as for me, when I was going through I left my ex, and for me with my two kids, they were 2 and 5 at the time, and I left them. What I would do would I'd be get a whiteboard, and I would put stuff down and then wipe it off, and then put all my feelings, everything what happened, and wipe it off. I kept doing it over and over and over, and then that generated into feeling them into it, like the repelling nature, and then wiping it off. And pretty soon I started to wipe it off, and what was glaring back at me was light, because of the whiteboard. And that was what I started to generate, attract light within me, so that be the strength within myself. And then there's a number of tools that we can use, and that was the one that was most significant. But going through the domestic violence, I was married for 11 years, and that was really horrible. And it really was dysfunctional for me to be able to practice chiropractic. I couldn't, because I couldn't get myself generated into healing when I was a mess to begin with. So that was a problem.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that are healers and light workers in these toxic relationships. It's maybe one of our earth lessons. I don't know.
Well, sometimes, and I've heard this through a couple of reliable sources, that we who are powerful, strong souls take on other souls who are weaker. We take on their karma to help them through. But then we forget, and we add that's more stuff that we need to release. I've seen a number of people who are in that scenario. So with that said too, that'll be a lot easier, because when we realize this stuff is not mine, it's somebody else's, that will help generate the release. And I had my daughter, she left when she was, this is like about 20 years ago by now. But when she left, it was really traumatic. She got impression of things that was from me and Eric, her brother, that was not right, and that ingrained in her. So she resonated with that, was why she left. But the last time, and we don't talk anymore, which is okay, because we're moving into different directions. The last time she said anything, she implied a me that's not me anymore. It's obsolete, which was really easy, because I was thinking, that's not me. That is not me. That is only her holding that image within her. And she would not listen to anything that I would say to begin with about how to heal that. So it's kind of in her ballpark. But what I have done is on a separate level, and I know she reaches it. I send her a lot of light without any implications of where the light should go. I leave it up to her. It's all her free will to do with what she wants to with the light. And that works. I've seen it work with other people as well.
So you said since you've come back, you've developed new gifts. What else have you developed? Or have you discussed it already?
This is really fun memory. A friend of mine, and she's known me for a long time. We first got interested because we're both into UFOs, and they are here. It's starting to come out. But anyway, I have this huge crystal, and her name is Nancy. I got to show you my crystal. Now, my friend has a problem. Let me get this right. My friend has a problem with her energy, and she was wondering about that. She was also wanting to know a little bit more about, I'm so off the wall and different things that I have to say. But anyway, she asked an intuitive that's up in Canada about myself. And instantly the intuitive said, oh, she's not on the planet. said, yeah, that's a given. And she asked about Nancy. And because my friend, whenever she's near Nancy, or if I'm talking with her on the phone and Nancy's here, she gets these extreme headaches and problems. And she wanted to know about that. And the only thing the intuitive said was, Nancy just needs to get cleaned. And that was it. Let it set at that. Yeah. But it was really funny when she said that I'm not on the planet, which is true. And that's probably why I was having trouble with chiropractic, because I'm not on the planet. But um, I was there's a really cool barista. It's called Brewed Awakenings in Vancouver, Washington. And I went there for a coffee. And my favorite of all coffee is Black Forest Mocha. And it's a mocha with black cherry flavoring. And so I ordered that. And you also get a chocolate dipped black cherry, and that was really cool. So I was ordering that, and I was sitting waiting for my ride, and these people across in the sitting area, they were talking about some problems this one person was having, and she was complaining about how chiropractors were charging so much. I said, oh, okay, here we go. You're talking about chiropractors. So I gave her some trigger points, which is really simple trigger point activity to help her with her low back. And then I said, they talked if I practice anymore. I said, no, I'm not. I had to retire because I had 3 bulged discs in my neck, and I was not able to physically work any longer. And then I told them that I had a near-death experience in 1981. I said, oh, forget your chiropractic. Tell me about your near-death experience. And so I told them briefly about that. So it was really fun that people are interested in near-death experiences. And we were talking about the fear base people have of dying. Say, oh, you have nothing at all to worry about. You are so involved with love. You have never ever felt this as much love on earth as you do in heaven. And everybody goes to heaven. We look at the challenges that we had and how we responded to the challenges, and like in our karma, and thinking about what do we need to do to process this out, and what could I have done better. Now, some of the people, and this is not from me personally, the MatthewBooks.com is a great reference. And Matthew Ward was in a fatal car accident when he was living in Peru. He has since come through his mom, Susie Ward, which she happens right now. She's living here in Camas, but she's going to be moving to Peru next month to be with her family. But he's talking about when people generate so much problems with so many people, they are kind of in an auditorium, and they sit in the auditorium where they feel the result of their whatever they did in on earth. For example, what if a president or a minister of some country someplace initiated a war, a needless war, and caused so many people to die from both sides, his own country and their country. They sit in a chair when they leave their bodies and feel everything that they did to everybody all at once. And it's just devastatingly for them to see that and feel that, because that's what happened. And when I had my near-death experience, I don't remember necessarily my life review, but I do know there are a few challenges that I have had, which we talked about, my self-esteem and a few other things about who I am and so forth. But that doesn't really matter to everybody else, with the exception of just know that when you do transition, you are met by angels. They will help you. They will transition you into knowing that you're out of your body. And it's a beautiful life. It's just so gorgeous. So in other words, people fear that God is judging them. Now, we judge ourselves. We look at what we could have done better in the Akashic records and in our life review and in our lifetime. So there's nothing to fear. It's like what to look forward to.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I
Yeah.
think, yeah. And I think that people often feel bad for the victim, but actually I feel after hearing this, and I've heard, you're not the first one, there's a few people that have said the same thing. You feel worse for the perpetrator because you know what they're going, how, like Jesus said, forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And the behind the scenes are completely different than actually what's going on. The scene
Yeah.
too. So
You know what
anyway.
I find really interesting though, is that every time they've tried to do something, it's actually backfired because they cannot stop what's happening. They can't stop this awakening that's going on. So,
Oh,
and they're
yeah.
dumbfounded because they keep wheeling out something, and then they thought population would just fall for the whole,
Yeah.
the C word, and a lot of people didn't. And now with this, I think with Charlie Kirk, this whole experience now, there's a lot of people being arrested and fired, and it's backfired again.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're waking up. And one of the things in Matthew's latest messages was, I think it was either the September or the one before that. He gives messages once a month, and they are so, so astronomically good to help hold on to. One of the things that he said, we didn't say this until now because we didn't want to influence anybody, but the light workers were counting on us on Earth to generate the light, to help them in the universe to access us to be able to transcend into and beyond 3D into 4D. They were counting on us. I think, oh, geez, I'm glad I didn't know that because that would have been heavy. But that was one of the things that they just said at that point, like, which correlates with what you're saying. They can't stop us because the light has generated so much momentum. And that's all about memorizing process. We're going in circles. We're memorizing what works. And as a collective, we have memorized what is working and we're not backing down.
I also think we've got access to more of those particles or the consciousness than we've ever had before. Because I have never felt so conscious as I do recently, and it didn't just come through the work that I did. I always feel like it's happened to me and not that I went out and did it.
I felt the same way too. And thinking back, like when the 60s and 50s, how dense that was, or according to now, is just completely different, night and day.
Yeah. Do you think animals experience that too, or not really? Is it just
I
humans?
do,
Is it
I do.
all of yeah?
Yeah, I connect my, oh, this is so sweet. My son's girlfriend, they're still living here, but just because the rent's so high and we're, living in the same room, but, or same apartment. She brought home a dog, really cutie. Oh, she's so cute. And she will tell me if she wants to play or not. And she'll run around in circles and she'll bark because she's excited. But I've connected with her too, with the dog. And it's really cool. You can really generate, you can see them responding back. And it's that subtle level of communicating. And that was when I went to the tree to begin with. I was seeing these birds. Before I went to the tree, I saw a number of birds. They were flying right over me. I said, oh, can you move over there? They would move over to one way. Okay, move over here because I'm walking this way. Said, okay, don't poop. You can like, fly above me. Just don't poop. And so I connected with him. And that's when I went to the tree, he said, you have a way with nature. I said, yeah. But yeah, and then my friend Susie Ward, she's the mother of Matthew Ward. She connects with animals. In fact, she has a book about connecting with animals too.
Yeah, it's incredible. Because I just wonder, like a lot of people, the way we were brought up is animals don't have a soul, and you lock your dog in the backyard and you just give it food. There's no interaction. I mean, that wasn't so long ago. I'm
Yeah.
wondering how much pain were those animals in emotionally, or were they
Oh,
also just at a lower vibration that they didn't feel it? Because, like, even to me, to cage a bird is so sad.
yeah. Yeah. Well, I agree with you too. Um, that's why when I connect with Roxy is the dog's name. When I connect with Roxy, it's always on a loving level, and she responds. If they don't understand us, then how do we train dogs to walk, sit, stay? You know, they understand things. That is
Exactly.
pretty obvious, and they can hear us. So going beyond that, at a deeper level too, the whales and the dolphins, they understand, and they are here holding the light for us. That's a beautiful, beautiful way because they're underneath, and whales are huge. You know, they're bigger than ships. So that's another access. Oh yeah, I just remember too. This one lady spoke with animals, and this one guy had a sanctuary for wild animals like tigers and so forth, and lions. And this one leopard that they got was in a cage, and the leopard was nasty, but the leopard was called Diablo. I think what was his name? Anyway, they were really worried about it, so they asked the intuitive to come by. And instantly, when she sat down, the leopard, calmed down, and she started to connect with him. And he said, first off, the leopard did not like his name; he wanted it changed. And then the leopard asked about some other smaller kittens that was in the same sanctuary that he was in. The leopard was worried about him, so she asked about him, which was a shock to them because they didn't tell her, they didn't tell the intuitive anything about what the past was. And so right away, they knew that this was getting connected. And they said, yeah, tell the leopard that they're doing fine. And she also connected with sharks. And they said that sharks don't like humans. Because if they come up and they attack a human, they don't like humans because there's nothing there, but they said they will go towards franticness. So if you're around a shark and you get frantic, that's what they're attracted to. And that was what she said. She's in South Africa, I think, if I remember right.
Yeah, that's right. I actually saw that. I think the leopard also wanted to be acknowledged for his presence, for
Yes,
being.
exactly. Yeah. So that was the last thing you see in the video is him standing up tall, because not only is he a leopard, but his presence was really astronomical. And you're right. You saw the same thing. That's really cool. You did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's beautiful, and it's true because there are animals that speak also that just like humans, I guess, we're also at different levels of evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't like to use the word younger souls because a soul is a soul. I think more experienced souls like you and I and other people who are more open are more experienced,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
can process things a little bit more effectively and
yeah.
easily.
Well, thank you, Annie. That was amazing to hear how it all works. I think it gave our viewers a lot of clarity and some tools that they can actually go and use now.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where can
originally I
people get hold of you?
my email is 1981 NDE at gmail.com. And I never did get together with a website. I'm just not, I'm technically challenged, and I just never really went there. But I would like to sometime. But if I did that, then I'll put more out there. But I do have some references with the podcast today. I could put at the bottom of when you post it, I'll put that down at the bottom. One of them is a UFO that I saw over the Columbia River in 2008. And it was really cool. It was huge, like about 2 football fields width. It was round and there was divots all around. And it came, normally we have east-west winds, and they can be like in wintertime up to 70-mile-an-hour gusts along the Columbia River Gorge. But this was traveling west-east, no sound. And then when it became closer to me, it morphed into a pyramid, then it morphed into an oval shape and disappeared. And it was so phenomenal. And I got telepathic information from these guys too. And they are here just to help us move from 3D fear into love. That's basically what they're here for.
Yeah, I think there's been so much fear mongering that people think they're here to take out the human race and don't trust them.
No,
But
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
if they were meant to do that, we would have been taken out already.
Oh, yeah, a long time ago too. And there was a video too, recent one too, of a missile that went out to try to shoot down a UFO, and it bounced off and broke off. It bounced off the UFO. I mean, if they come from wherever they come from, they got to have protection, you know? So it's so funny how these little tinker toys that they see us trying to dismantle, it doesn't work.
Well, if we've got a firmament over the earth or a dome, how do they get through it, or is it a interdimensional thing, do you think?
Oh, yeah, I did. It's a different dimensional thing or density. One time I went to Trout Lake, a SETI ranch, where there's a lot of UFO activity with a friend. And one of the UFOs landed, and I saw it. My friend didn't see it, but I saw it. It was wavy. And I saw the front, which was just a front, and then the sides were off at an angle. And then an opening happened, and an ET walked out, and he was giving information to my friend Alden about what his life was going to be like. And my friend said, and it was all positive, everything was just all positive. And my friend said, oh, I wish I could hear him. And the ET telepathically told me, compare his energy to the surrounding atmosphere. And so he did. There's atmosphere here, no atmosphere, and then atmosphere here. You could tell where the ET was. So that was a confirmation for my friend. Yeah, absolutely. And no majority of times they're not visible, but they will uncloak their ships to become visible at the timing, when the timing's right. And with that last mentioning of the UFO being shot at by a missile, and the missile disintegrates, that says quite a lot. But the people who are behind holding this together, they're falling apart. Like we were talking earlier, it's just everything's falling apart.
Yeah. The more they try, the more it backfires, which is fine.
Yeah,
It's just there is a lot of casualties happening along the way. That's
I
the
know.
tragedy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And I think for me the biggest problem is like they're messing with our environment. It's the food and the water and the stuff that keeps everything alive.
Well, the good news with that is the extraterrestrials, when they can land, will clean that up in an instant. They had the capacity to do that, to give us freedom from all of the toxic waste. Like Hanford in Washington State's got a lot of toxic waste from nuclear power, and everything will be disseminated within a nanosecond. That's the good
Wow.
news. That's what they're here for too. And then to give us, we we live in such a toxic environment. They're going to be cleaning it up when they can land safely for everybody.
Wow. Well, that's something to look forward to.
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'll post your email in the description below. And then, yeah, that was fascinating. Before we go, do you have a message for our viewers?
Oh, yeah. We talked about it. Fear, just don't go there. Because when we do go to fear, like we talked about, it will generate fear. And that's what the fearful people who have been in control, that's what they give, that's what gives them the energy. Just don't go there. Like we've given certain examples, being, that's what it was, being objective as you can to your challenges. Like I gave the sample of my daughter. That's not me. I got objective to her rhetoric because I'm not getting pulled into that. It's totally not me. And anytime we go into situations to clear, the most powerful ways that we can clear is becoming objective to that in one way or another. In other words, like when we talked about funneling all your stuff on the whiteboard and then clearing it off, that's getting objective to it. And if you talk with somebody about, that'll also generate similarities and problems. So unless you talk with somebody who just doesn't really go there, which is kind of hard and rare, but just eliminate as much as we can, eliminate the fear base within our field of energy, within our lives.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
just don't go into fear. And everything is beyond our comprehension of what love is like when we transcend into nirvana. And the beings are so benevolent, and they're just really, really cool. They're here because of love. Basically, that's it, because that's who we are. We're love.